In April 2014, 5 small songbirds did something that made scientists sit up in disbelief. They had just finished a migration of thousands of miles. They had just arrived at their breeding grounds in Tennessee, exhausted, ready to nest, ready to rest. And then, without warning, they left, all 5 birds, abandoning the territory they had just claimed, flying hundreds of miles in the wrong direction, for no reason anyone on the ground could see. The sky was clear. The weather was calm. There was absolutely nothing, to human eyes or human instruments, suggesting danger. But these birds flew anyway. Some of them traveled over 900 miles round trip. One bird even ended up in Cuba. And less than 24 hours later, a monstrous storm system tore through the exact region they had just fled. 84 tornadoes, 35 people killed. One of the most devastating tornado outbreaks in recent American history. The birds were already gone. They had left before a single tornado touched the ground, before local weather stations detected anything unusual, before radar showed any sign of what was coming. How did 5 tiny songbirds know what an entire national weather system didn't? Today, we're going inside one of the most remarkable discoveries in animal behavior, a sense so sensitive it may have detected a killer storm before modern technology ever could. Meet the golden-winged warbler, a tiny songbird weighing less than 2 nickels, bright yellow cap, striking black throat patch, delicate gray-blue body. This bird makes an extraordinary journey every single year, wintering in the forests of Colombia, South America, then flying thousands of miles north each spring to breed in the Appalachian Mountains of the eastern United States. A journey demanding enormous energy, enormous precision, and very little room for wasted effort. In 2014, a research team led by ecologist Henry Strebe, working with the University of California, Berkeley, was tracking a small population of these warblers in the Cumberland Mountains of eastern Tennessee. The goal was simple: test whether these tiny birds could even carry small geolocator devices on their backs without it affecting their behavior. A basic technical study. Nothing more. Nobody on that research team expected to discover anything about storms. Nobody expected to document a behavior that had never been recorded in birds before. But that's exactly what happened. The warblers had just completed their migration, just settled into their breeding territory in Tennessee. This is a critical, energy-intensive period for these birds. Establishing territory, attracting mates, preparing to nest. Abandoning it, even briefly, comes at real biological cost. And yet the tracking data showed something researchers hadn't anticipated at all. The birds suddenly left their breeding grounds, all at once, flying away from Tennessee in different directions, taking different individual routes, but all moving with clear urgency. When researchers checked the timing against local conditions, something didn't add up. The weather in Tennessee, at the moment the birds departed, was completely normal. No storm clouds, no dramatic pressure drop, no wind, nothing a human observer, or even most weather instruments on the ground, would have flagged as dangerous. The birds left their breeding territories a full day, in some cases even earlier, before the storm system actually arrived. At the moment of departure, the storm itself was still 250 to 560 miles away. Hundreds of miles. A full day's warning for an event that hadn't even reached the region yet. What arrived less than a day later wasn't an ordinary storm. In late April 2014, a massive supercell storm system swept across the central and southern United States. It spawned 84 confirmed tornadoes. It killed at least 35 people. It became one of the most devastating tornado outbreaks the region had experienced in years. Modern weather forecasting using satellites, radar, and a global network of monitoring stations gave people hours of warning before the worst of it hit. Hours. Sometimes less. The golden-winged warblers had left more than 24 hours earlier, before official forecasts had fully mapped the storm's severity, before the system had even reached the birds' breeding grounds. Some of these tiny birds traveled more than 900 miles round trip to avoid it. One individual bird ended up as far away as Cuba before eventually returning. Once the storm passed and conditions returned to normal, the warblers flew back to Tennessee, resuming their breeding season as if nothing unusual had happened. For them, this may have simply been instinct. For the scientists watching the data, it raised an entirely new question. What exactly had these birds sensed? Researchers began investigating what could possibly have warned these birds from hundreds of miles away, with no visible local signs of danger. Their leading theory involves something most people have never heard of: infrasound. Infrasound refers to extremely low-frequency sound waves below 20 Hz, far below the range of human hearing, which typically starts around 20 Hz and goes up from there. To us, infrasound is completely silent, but tornadic supercell storms generate enormous infrasound signatures. Scientists have known for decades that these storms produce very specific low-frequency rumbles, far too deep for human ears to register. And because lower frequencies travel dramatically farther than higher-pitched sounds, this infrasound doesn't fade quickly. It can travel hundreds, even potentially thousands of miles from its source before it weakens beyond detection. Birds, along with animals like elephants and whales, are known to be capable of detecting infrasound. Researchers believe the warblers may have picked up on the deep, distant rumble of the forming supercell long before the storm's actual weather, wind, or rain arrived anywhere near their location. Essentially, if we're hearing a warning, humans are completely deaf to. One tornado expert reviewing the case admitted he wasn't fully convinced infrasound explained everything, but even in his skepticism, he acknowledged something remarkable. Clearly, these birds were sensing something that we simply can't. If this kind of hidden animal ability amazes you as much as it amazed the researchers, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps stories like this reach more people. This wasn't the first time scientists have suspected birds could detect environmental changes humans can't perceive. Birds are already known to sense shifts in barometric pressure through sensitive structures in their inner ears and respiratory systems. A subtle physical warning system, something like a headache before rain, but far more precise. But barometric pressure changes are typically a local, short-range signal. They can explain a bird reacting to weather that's already nearby. They cannot explain a bird reacting to a storm that is still hundreds of miles away, with no local signs of trouble at all. Infrasound is the piece of the puzzle that fills that gap. Researchers describe this potential ability as almost like a built-in early warning radar system, refined over millions of years of evolution. For migratory birds facing extreme weather regularly along enormous travel routes, the ability to detect danger from hundreds of miles away and route around it entirely would offer an enormous survival advantage. This was the first time this specific storm avoidance behavior had ever been documented in birds during breeding season, when abandoning territory carries such heavy cost, which makes the bird's decision even more remarkable. Whatever they sensed was serious enough to override one of the most critical periods in their entire year. Scientists are careful to note that this discovery raises more questions than it answers. Researchers still don't know exactly how widespread this ability is among other bird species. They don't fully understand the precise mechanism birds use to interpret infrasound as a specific storm warning, rather than simply background noise. But the implications are significant. If migratory birds truly possess a natural early warning system for extreme weather, built into their biology across millions of years of evolution, it means nature may have developed forecasting capabilities long before humans built our first radar systems. So the next time you notice birds behaving strangely, suddenly restless, suddenly leaving an area for no visible reason, remember what those 5 warblers did in April 2014. They didn't wait for a weather warning. They didn't need a satellite, a radar system, or a meteorologist. They simply heard something hundreds of miles away that no human ever could, and they trusted it enough to fly. If this story changed the way you'll look at the birds around you, subscribe to Birdhearts so you never miss the next hidden superpower in the bird world. And tell me in the comments, do you think animals can sense disasters before humans ever can? I'll see you in the next one.